Thanks, Tim. Great to be back on Share Cafe. I guess introducing SensOre to people who have been following the story and new and potential investors. SensOre was created to really deal with some of the big challenges that we're facing in providing resources for the battery and critical minerals future. We see that the challenge is to be able to overcome sparse data, expensive data to collect, and be able to bring that approach of AI and machine learning to be able to unlock the resources that we need for some of the big challenges around the energy transition, batteries, electric vehicles, etc., that are coming ahead. It's an exciting time for us. We've just released a platform which provides, I guess, a new way of being able to look at the Australian continent in many different ways and provide that data for people to be able to deploy some of these new emerging AI and ML techniques to unlock that area. If we can go to the next slide. Next slide. We listed back in February last year. Probably timing was one that was at the end of the last cycle. We have an exciting position because we're one of the few listed opportunities to be able to invest in mining technology success stories. Many of the companies that are looking at different softwares that support the resources industry remain private, have been taken out by private equity in recent areas. So it's an opportunity to be able to get exposure to what is one of Australia's biggest industries, but also one that is revolutionising the delivery of metals for the energy transition future. About 70 million shares on issue, tightly held by people with deep expertise in mining and technology stocks, and looking at being able to grow for the future. Next slide, please. We released our quarterly just at the end of last month. Really strong growth. I think if you're looking at the SensOre story for the first time, we've invested heavily since we listed in automation, platform development, technology rollout. We acquired a fantastic company called Intrepid Geophysics based in Brighton and Melbourne, who've been doing world-leading science for about 40 years and also been collecting data through supporting different geological surveys around the world to be able to build up what I think is the biggest data set to support Australian exploration that exists anywhere, potentially outside of even the majors and government databases. So we've invested heavily in being able to bring that story to market. We're seeing that response now in our clients and the work that's coming through. We had 80% increase in revenue last quarter, quarter on quarter. Also benefiting for the fact that we're freeing people up from working on technology deployment and development now into delivering for clients who are working with us. We've got two real exciting products that are not available anyone else in the market, particularly in the geophysics area. Cauchy downward continuation is a way of being able to image the continent in a way where you reduce noise or static that has been present in other data sets. So if you can imagine being blind and now you can see, when you're looking at cuts deep into the Earth's surface, Cauchy reduces the noise so that you can see for the first time some of the structures and important things that are there. And brilliant scientists from Canada and Australia worked on this. They redid the way we process geophysical information. They actually took out the algorithms that were behind noise reduction in old telephones. That was I guess the technology we were using was designed by Bell Technologies back when they were looking at handheld phones and reducing static and noise on lines. That was driving our minerals industry in the geophysics area. So we've redone it using complex number theory from a French mathematician called Cauchy. It's delivering really strong results. Our 2.5D airborne EM solution is another approach which means you can get more information out of your existing data sets. We're seeing really strong demand out of Western Australia, out of China and India as well for this type of technology. So we're selling globally on this component, and I think it's starting to be seen in the revenue results that we're putting out, and we should be watching these in coming quarters. Can you go to the next slide? I mentioned in the intro that we're looking at solving some of the big problems, and I'm not sure many people are aware how much lithium, nickel, cobalt, copper is going to be required to be able to meet the EV demand for the future. The IEA put out a paper recently saying that they're going to need 50 lithium mines, an extra 60 nickel mines, extra 17 cobalt mines to be able to meet this demand. And likewise in other commodities, but we don't have the technology to be able to make those discoveries. Each mine is taking more than a decade to come online. We're going to have to reduce the cycle times to be able to do that. We're going to have to be able to explore more efficiently. And in places like Australia, we're going to have to be able to explore undercover. Undercover means under sediment, under sand, areas that don't stick out, where the Earth's crust doesn't stick out. We do a very good job of sampling things that are at surface. Most of the areas of Western Australia which basement rocks are present on the surface have been heavily sampled. You can go there and see more than 100 years really of prospectors and others looking at those areas and looking for deposits. As soon as you push under sand or undercover, you're looking at, we probably know more about the surface of the moon than some of the parts of the Australian continent in those areas. And SensOre is putting exploration dollars into some of those areas where we see these future mines coming, because the demand is going to only grow, and the sector cannot currently meet the demand that is at present globally. If I can go to the next slide. So what is the answer that we have? A bit like the Microbia presentation before, it's a data platform. We create a massive data set, the data we acquired from Intrepid Geophysics, the data that we pull together globally, processing public submissions to the government, bring that together into a massive data sink, data lake that is the Australian continent. We've now pushed that to a cloud-based system so that you can, a bit like a Google Maps or a satellite view, you can image the continent now using derivatives of gravity and magnetic data. You can look at it by electromagnetic data sets. You can look at it by drilling data in a speed that is at a pace that makes it efficient. It's been one of the technical hurdles, is that when you're dealing with some of these really large data sets, being able to image them quickly. We've had a real strong demand from investors as well. Part of our system, and we should go to the next slide, is a way of being able to search by company, by tenement, and be able to do the things that a geologist would do with already pre-populated data to be able to review the investment potential of that target. So you can look at a company's drilling data, recent results, you can pull up the gravity and magnetic information, you can look at past drilling or surface geochem leveled to geology, and you as an investor or others can save a lot of time not having to be able to prepare that data yourself and make an assessment about the potential scale of that announcement or that occurrence or unseen potential in that area. So we have our first major release of this platform is the Resource Explorers Conference this coming week in Perth, and we've seen very strong demand both from companies but also investors to get access to this information in a format that is pretty unique in this area. We don't have competitors in this space. If we can go to the next slide. We're also seeing really strong global demand. While we started in WA as a company and focused on one of the biggest exploration markets in the world there, 70% of exploration funding is put into Western Australia out of all of Australia's exploration budgets. We're now looking at how we roll this out globally. We've had approaches from multiple countries and others to be able to develop similar systems. These approaches have been in the past sort of done by governments. There are limits to what government provision of data would be, and it's holding back the industry for discovery. So the massive growth in exploration funding, we're going to be there in the major markets, and particularly emerging markets that are investing heavily in this. We're seeing strong demand out of India at the moment, particularly for being able to add our other geophysical data sets to seismic data for some of the industries there. I think we're in the right spot. I think we've put the hard yards in, and we're just starting to see some of the benefits flowing through to our revenue lines at the moment. If I can go to the next slide. When we put together all that data and we clean it, level it, make it available to people to be able to access it, we have some great tools to be able to analyze it. These are some of the products that we do. The DPT system uses artificial intelligence to be able to predict where targets are. We use a process where we look at 1,000 different examples of gold or copper or nickel projects, either in a local area in Australia or globally. We get the computer to train and look what the pattern of that data is and be able to search for similar patterns in that data. A bit like in the healthcare space where you're looking at images for cancer treatment, you're looking at computers reading x-rays and other things to be able to see anomalies in that data. We're doing that now for mining. We're looking for an anomaly in the Earth's crust that could host a major deposit. If we can go to the next slide. We're seeing a vast increase in the number of people interested in using our services. I think there's been a change in the way the sector is open to innovation and technology, and we're driving that forefront, working from big end of town right to the small end of town. With the new explosion of mining companies, there's fewer geologists in companies. They need that outsourced expertise, and we're there to be able to develop it. We can go to the next slide. Very strong support from the companies we work with. All of those companies have been involved with us for a long time. They're leaders of innovation. They want to see what they can do with their data, and they don't want to be looking at just conventional. They want to be overlaying the best technology that's available, and very supportive of what they're doing with us. Next slide. One of the advantages of our approach is definitely about the environment. Companies want to use us because we've reduced the footprint of what we do. So more surgical exploration, less large-scale land disturbance or pattern to be able to collect data. We want to get down to a discrete location where a target is predicted, be able to verify that by the geophysics, and be able to drill fewer holes, less rigs working, less land disturbed in sensitive areas, and be able to make sure that our industry has a strong reputation for the future. Next slide, please. Some of the targets that we've developed, I just want to talk very quickly about that. Moonara project, this is down in the Western Australia, near the South Australian border, under about 400 metres of cover. System predicted large copper gold potential system. We drilled that last year with support from WA government. Came back with rare earth and indicators of a IOCG or carbonatite system. So that's 400 metres undercover, drilling one hole in a 35 square kilometre area. We know we're in a big system, and we're going to be following up with drilling later in this year. We have a joint venture to the north of that with Chalice, famed for nickel exploration. We're also going to be drilling that program later in the year to be able to test that very large geophysical feature that you can see in that location, and we have exposure to other targets in that area. Next slide, please. We've also been validating our system using gold. Gold's the most commonly assayed commodity, so there's a really good data set there. This is just near the Red 5 gold operations, just to the north there at Darlow. Very strong intercepts in that first pass drilling, validating the AI generated targets. So it's always good to see gold where gold is predicted. We've also done a lot of work on lithium recently, obviously very exciting for us. People might not know that part of the assay methodology is to use lithium in that process. So not many assay results actually have lithium results associated with it unless you specifically request it from the labs. So we're going blind as an industry into a really strong demand for lithium. We need new exploration toolkit for it. We're using radiometric data. We're using AI to be able to discriminate between lithium-bearing granites and pegmatites in those areas, and be able to separate from 12 different classes of granite pegmatite structures which ones are going to host the new green bushes or other mines associated with lithium. So it's an exciting phase for us. Next slide. mentioned quite a few of the people there that the deep technology experts that we have, AlphaGo, Des Fitzgerald, Dane Burkett, all come out of major technology groups, or BHP, Rio Tinto, etc. In the past, we've got a dynamic group of people for a small company, and we're all working on exciting R&D projects for the future. Next slide. We've done a lot in the last 12 months. We've listed a company, made a major acquisition, made a huge investment in a technology platform, and been able to expand into North America and to Asia with our sales strategy. And you're going to see a lot more for us in the future now that we've completed that phase and growing our client list. Next slide. So in summary, we're exciting business. One of the few companies you can get exposure to mining technology and developments in that area on the ASX. We're working with big companies. We've got great people behind us, and I think we're well placed at an exciting time in the mining sector when we need to find battery and critical minerals for the future. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you, Richard. We're out of time, but I'm going to, there's some questions if you don't mind answering directly online. You can answer those questions. Just quickly, last time I think we spoke, you mentioned the US. Is there any progress been made in expanding into the US? I think you were looking at a base in Denver.
Yeah, we have a base in Denver. We've got people working in different parts of the states on projects for clients over there, particularly on our geophysics area. There's been very strong demand in that area.